Hello everyone. I really request you to please give me 5 minutes to go over the syllabus together. Because once you're going to go over this entire syllabus with me, you're going to know that this is the perfect and best course out there. All right, I have actually broken down my entire course in 10 different modules. First module is about understanding Linux concept. We will cover about Linux, Unix versus Linux, and notice one thing. Every module I have included quizzes for you to do, homework to do after each module, and handouts to read. You don't really have to read each handout, but it's good to have those resources in your hand. Moving on to module 2, where we will cover download, install, and configure actual Linux machine. So we'll talk about virtual machine, downloading that virtual machine. We'll talk about what are the different ways to install a Linux machine. Then we'll cover the actual CentOS installation. I have also included the optional Red Hat Linux installation lecture as well. Then somewhat on Linux desktop, management on VM, and then again ending with quizzes, homework, and handouts. Moving on to module 3, which is about system access and file system. And that is about command prompts, accessing Linux system, downloading install putty. You need to know some important things about Linux. I have covered that. Introduction to file system. What are the different file systems that are available? Then the basic commands, cd, pwd, and ls. That's where we're going to start our Linux command lines. Moving on to a file system, as you're going to see, I'm going to skip them very fast so you'll review and go over it. Directory listing, touch copy commands, finding files in directory, wildcard, soft link, hard link, quizzes, homework, and handouts. Then module 4 is about Linux fundamentals. Command syntax, change mod. This is all about permission, the file permission. Also ACL, access control, which is a detail, getting into the weeds, getting help, tab completion, adding text to the file, pipes, file management commands, display commands, filters command, compare files, so many commands we're going to learn in module 4. That is about Linux fundamental. And combining, splitting files, Linux versus Windows, and of course quizzes, homework, and handouts. Module 5, system administration, getting more into the actual administration part. We will talk about how we could VI a file, the difference between VI and win, sed, which is substitution command. We'll talk about user account management, sudo accounts, how are you could manage your Linux users through Active Directory or through the other third-party authentication. We'll also talk about difference between LDAP, ID, and WinBy and Open LDAP. Then we'll talk about system utility commands, OS maintenance command, changing system hostname, finding system information, recover root password, SOS report, environment variable, a lot more. I'm already getting out of breath and we're still on module 5. Moving on to module 6, we'll talk about all about shell scripting. I'll show you if then script, for loop scripts, do while scripts, and many scripts. Module 7, networking servers and system updates. We'll talk about networking components, bonding network ports, downloading files from the internet, SSH versus telnet. We'll talk about DNS, hostname and IP lookup, NTP, cronid, sendmail, and all these services that you see. I'm not just gonna go over real quickly. I'm actually gonna work with you to go ahead and download, install, and configure each of these servers. Then module 8 is all about disk management. We'll talk about run levels, we'll talk about disk partitions. LVM is the biggest part of this, where we're going to cover everything about LVM, adding disk, removing disk. We're going to talk about extending the existing partition, swap space, RAID, file system check, NFS, complete big topic of NFS. I covered everything from scratch. Also covered the difference between all Red Hat flavors. Module 9, okay, now up until Module 8, everything is covered on the technical side. I'm not leaving you right here. I'm actually holding your hand and taking you to Module 9 about how you should have your resume. We'll have a resume workshop, cover letter, exposure to other technologies, homework handouts. Then module 10, just like resume, I am taking you to the next level where I'm going to tell you how you should be prepared for your Linux interviews. And that is something about Linux. What is IT jobs that we have, IT management. When you apply for a Linux job, what do you need to expect? Then interview workshop, actual workshop. Then certification. If you want to get into certification, you want to get a certification in Linux, then we have 200 plus interview questions that I'm going to give it to you, and of course handwork and handouts. And then of course recap. This is not part of the module, it's just a recap what we have learned from this course, and the final exam is about 100 question. I really urge you to take that so you know that you where you stand with this course. Then additional resources, I have 20 plus additional videos and lecture that you could take if you want to. Now you decide. Now you be the judge. Is this course really going to make a difference in your life? Well, I'll tell you, yes, it will. So please go ahead and click on enroll, and you're going to find tons of resources in this course. Good luck.